Good evening. Being 7 p.m., I'll call to order the McHenry County Board regular meeting of November 21st, 2023. And Ms. Van Hoff will lead us in the pledge tonight.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And joining us for our invocation this evening is Pastor Norval Brown from Cary United Methodist Church. Welcome back, Mr. Brown.
At the Cary United Methodist Church, where I serve as lead pastor, we begin all of our meetings with the reading of the Respectful Communication Guidelines by Eric Law from the Kaleidoscope Institute. And so I wish to share those with you this evening. As we read, we'll be looking at the word respect. The R stands for responsibility. We take responsibility for what you say and feel without blaming others. This means using I statements such as I think, I feel, or I believe instead of you statements. We use empathy. We use empathetic listening not just to words, we listen to the whole person, trying to feel and to see the world as the person who is speaking sees and feels. We're sensitive to differences in communication styles, remembering that people communicate in different ways. Be aware of how much or how little you are speaking and ponder what it is that is most helpful for the group. Also ask clarifying questions such as, I wonder, or I notice. P, ponder. Ponder what you hear and how you feel before you speak. Consider what you were going to say before you say it. E, examine. Examine your own assumptions and perceptions. Think, what caused me to think or feel a certain way now? Or were there personal experiences that I need to explore further before I speak? C, confidentiality. Keep confidentiality. Keeping confidentiality differs from keeping secrets. Secrets are kept to hold power or protect the interests of those who know. Keeping confidentiality upholds the well-being of those around the table in this community. Remember, we are all residents of this community, and the welfare of all affects one, and the welfare of one affects all. Live, work, and play to ensure the well-being of all. And T, trust. Trust ambiguity, because we're not here to debate who is right or wrong. In the community, there will be differences of experience, understanding, and opinion. There will be ambiguity, and that's okay. In that light and in that spirit, let us pray. O Creator Spirit, as we gather in this space tonight, the thoughts of many look beyond this moment to our upcoming Thanksgiving holiday. Yet this meeting tonight has bearing on this upcoming holiday and the Thanksgiving celebrations in years to come. You've called us forth as your creation and have seen fit to pour blessing upon us. You have supported and sustained us with the bounty of the earth that renews our bodies. You have supported and sustained us with a community of family and friends that we might never be alone. You have formed us in your own image that we might remember that it is from you that we come, and it is to you that we return. We gather today as people throughout the ages have gathered to acknowledge that we are unable on our own to provide for our own needs. You are the source of our food and our shelter, our water and our health, our security and our safety. You, O God, are the very source of our lives. And in grateful praise, we offer you thanks today. In these moments, we thank you, O power above and beyond us all, for the gift of shelter. Mindful that there is a significant portion of our population who long for more than the sky as their ceiling, the ground as their floor, and the horizon as their walls. We thank you, O one whose breath breathed forth creation, for the gift of family and friends whose presence reminds us that we're never alone. Mindful that there are many, some with family, who will still be lonely and alone. We thank you, God of many names, for our nation and the freedoms we enjoy. For those who have fought and are fighting now, that those freedoms might continue, while others live under oppressive regimes that seek to prevent life from being lived in all of its fullness. And we thank you, O most holy and beloved one, for the tables laden with food on this day and every day, a sign of your gifts to us. May we who gather in this space never be in want for food. May we never be in want of companionship or shelter either. And as we ask your blessing upon our food, our gathering, our residence, we ask your blessing upon this Board of Supervisors. Allow them to see themselves as those who justly help to disseminate your blessings to all, as they remember that your blessings to us were never meant to stay with us, but rather are to be shared with those around us. May this board, joined with their constituents, work together to find ways to share with the least, the last, and the lost, the immigrant, the widows, the fatherless, so that all might have food, companionship, shelter, freedom, and all of the necessities of life. To you, O God, we offer our pleas for your continued blessings and our thanks and praise for all that we have already received. Amen, Ashe, so be it.
Clerk, could you call the roll, please?
Althoff. Here. Campbell. Here. Gadamuller. Here. Greeno. Here. Hendricks. Here. Kaminsky. Present. Kearns. Here. Kunkel. Here. Meshes. Here. Ness. Here. Reinert. Here. Sager. Here. Shorten. Here. Scala. Present. Smith. Van Hoff. Here. Von Bergen. Here. Wegner. Here. All are present, Chairman.
Okay, having a quorum, we'll proceed. I'll entertain a motion to adopt the agenda. Mr. Scala, Ms. Althoff seconds. All in favor say aye. Aye. Against, motion carries. Next, I'll entertain a motion to approve the minutes of previous meetings. Ms. Ness makes the motion. Mr. Scala seconds. Any discussion or changes? Seeing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Against, motion carries. Good evening again. My report this evening will be brief. Tonight, the County Board will be voting to officially approve the 2024 budget and levy for the new fiscal year starting December 1st. And I'd like to thank everyone from administration and finance staff to our department heads and County Board committees for doing their part to craft a responsible budget. We have long been one of the most fiscally responsible counties in Illinois, and this latest budget continues that reputation for excellence. I'm very pleased with the process, and the best results often come when no one gets everything that they want. Last week, we learned that our very own Circuit Clerk, Kathy Keefe, was named 2023 Illinois County Official of the Year by the Illinois Association of County Officials at its fall conference in Bloomington. I can think of few people more deserving than Kathy for the honor. She's dedicated 36 years to the Circuit Clerk's office, during which time she's made McHenry County a leader in adopting new technology and increasing efficiency. Congratulations, Kathy. You've earned this, and you've made us all very proud. And finally, this evening, discussions are still ongoing to find an off-site location that can serve as an election center to give our county clerk and recorder and his staff the space they need to count ballots and process election results. County administration will be holding talks with the city of Woodstock sometime in early December. And this concludes my report. I wish you all and everyone watching at home a very happy Thanksgiving and safe travels. Are there any member comments tonight? Ms. Greeno?
August 1st, 1620, the Mayflower, a 50-foot boat, set sail carrying 102 passengers, including 40 separatists, the Pilgrims. They were led by William Bradford on their journey across the Atlantic. On the journey, Bradford set up a contract, the Mayflower Compact, based on biblical precedents, establishing just and equal laws for all 40 pilgrims, no matter their religious beliefs. They arrived in November to a cold and barren land. During the first winter, half of them died of starvation, sickness, and exposure. The Pilgrims had no money, so they were sponsored by a trading company. The agreement stated that everything would go into a common storehouse with each member owning one equal share, no ownership. Bradford saw that the commune, collectivism, socialism wasn't working. It was costly and destructive. He scrapped the idea and gave every family a plot of land with which they could do whatever they wanted. he turned loose the power of the capitalist marketplace. The Pilgrims found that people could not be expected to do their best without incentive. To quote Bradford, "This had very good success, for it made all hands industrious, and so as much more corn was planted than otherwise would have been." They set up trading posts and exchanged goods with the Indians. Word of their success spread throughout the Old World, causing the New World to be flooded with what was known as the Great Puritan Migration. Back to that first winter in 1620, when only 44 of the original 102 survived. Squanto, an Indian who had been captured by the slave traders in 1610, became an interpreter on an English ship and came back to his home in 1618. Taught the Pilgrims how to hunt, fish, skin beavers, and brokered a peace treaty and land purchase between Pilgrims and the other tribes. When the Pilgrims had a tremendous harvest in 1621, the Indians joined them with their huge feast of celebration and Thanksgiving. Not only am I thankful for the freedom and prosperity of this land, but also for the hardworking servant leaders on this board and county administration.
Okay. Ms. Ness?
Last week, I was absent from the cow because I was in a mental health first aid training sponsored by the Veterans Assistance Commission. We had 13 people connected to veterans in the training. It was remarkable. I want to thank you for showing up, Chairman Bueller. But more so, I really want to thank the staff and Mike Iwaniki from the VAC, my colleague, Carl Kaminsky, for the first County Veterans Day event here in front of the Vietnam War Memorial. It was amazing, and I'm not even worried about the people that didn't show up, because the people that did show up were amazing. So I want to thank all of you for opening your doors to veterans, for supporting the VAC, and making Operation Greenlight such a success. Thank you.
Thank you. And for those that didn't show up, hopefully we can do it again next year. That was a wonderful event. Thank you. Ms. Wagner?
I'll be brief. I just want to say happy Thanksgiving to everybody. And remember, on Friday, it's Black Friday, please visit your small businesses, the local businesses here in McHenry County. They are the people who live among us. And also remember that on Tuesday, it's Giving Tuesday. Please give to the local nonprofit service agencies that help our local people. Thank you.
Ms. Meshes?
Thank you. I want to congratulate our Cary Grove High School team on going to the state finals this weekend, and I wish them the best of luck as they bring home hopefully a title to McHenry County.
Okay, seeing no other comments, we'll move on to zoning. I'll entertain a motion to approve the zoning consent agenda. Mr. Scala makes a motion. Mr. Sager seconds. Clerk, could you open the voting, please? Second. That was the consent agenda, not the regular one. There's only one item on the consent agenda. Voting is open. Have all voted who wish?
Mr. Smith? Mr. Smith?
Mr. Smith? Okay, motion carries. Next, I'll entertain a motion to approve item 10B1. Mr. Scala makes the motion, Mr. Smith seconds, and Mr. Smith.
Yeah, this is the one that the ZBA unanimously voted to recommend denial. And I know that at the COW, a couple of the representatives from that district also spoke about this particular petition. And as a reminder, if you want to agree with the ZBA's recommendation for denial, you'll be voting no for this as the resolution is written in the affirmative. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further comments, discussion? Seeing none, clerk, could you open the voting, please? Voting is open. Have all voted who wish? Motion does not carry. Okay, we'll move on to public comment. First will be Janet Holub, I'm sorry about that. Just a reminder, each speaker will have 3 minutes to speak, at which time the red light will come on in front of me. If you're not finished yet, I would ask you to summarize your comments, and please proceed.
I'll be real short. I'm just speaking about funding the county mental health board, and I'm thinking about the opioid crisis in the county and also our homeless population and how those are very closely related to mental health. Thank you.
Mr. Mutert, did you wish to speak? Yes, sir. Rob Mutert.
Thank you, Chairman Bueller and the entire county board. I'm Rob Mutert, Executive Director and founder of Warp Core, a local 501c3 non-for-profit. We focus on mental health, substance use disorder, and homeless outreach with a huge emphasis on prevention-based programs for children before they get into the heavy. But I am here tonight to support, obviously, the funding for the Mental Health Board. We are new to that pond as far as an agency. We have been funded by the county board for several years now. And I just want to express my gratitude and thanks to each and every member of this board and you, Chairman Bueller. This is new to me, but I see the work that's required, that is asked of all of you. And I just send a huge amount of love and respect to each and every one of you for how you approach this job you have as county board members and the professionalism you bring to make McHenry County the best county we can. Thank you very much. Happy Thanksgiving.
Glenn Reese, is it?
Yes. I'll address the board. Thanks for my time. I'd like to address the board on your item on your agenda 17B2, the solid waste removal franchise agreement. I respectfully request that you reject this ordinance. It is not in the best interest of everybody in the county because it is raising the prices of some people's garbage by double to triple. And if you cannot reject it, at least add in back the per bag option, which is what I use, which will keep my costs at where they're at. And the other thing I would like you to add to the ordinance is that there's a yearly review of the contract, and if their performance has not improved, that it be reopened or somebody else to come in and do it, because there's since LRS has taken over, their service has been extremely lousy. Thank you.
Next, I think it's just a first name, Eric Severson.
So I wanted to address something that's not actually on your agenda. I received a phone call from the sheriff's deputy the other day because a county board member had called with a concern about an event that was going on at the gun shop that I own. We held a watch party for the Republican presidential candidate debate the other night, and there was a concern about the targets we were going to be shooting at because the Facebook post said political targets. Well, I brought we had 3 different target designs. We had the big government, because who wouldn't want to destroy big government? We had the national debt, because the national debt is a threat to every one of us. And we had the Communist Manifesto in the first printing in German. Specifically, I chose this one because the newer versions have Karl Marx and Frederick Engels on the cover of them. And at our range, our rules say, targets representing particular people are not allowed. So it was a fun event. We ended up mostly just doing the politics, not doing much shooting, but that's not a concern at our range that we're gonna be shooting at. Anything that represents real people, that's not what we do. Political violence is not a good thing, and I would be opposed to that anywhere, so. Guys, have a good night.
That concludes our public comments. We'll move on to appointments. I'll entertain a motion to approve appointments to the McHenry County Housing Authority and Historic Preservation Commission. Ms. Althoff makes the motion. Mr. Gottemoller seconds. Any discussion? Seeing none. Clerk, could you open the voting, please? Voting is open. Have all voted who wish?
Ms. Meshes. Ms. Meshes. Thank you.
Motion carries. Next, do any committee chairs or liaisons have reports for us tonight? Ms. Wegner?
Thank you. So I attended the Workforce Network meeting last week, and they are in the middle of creating their four-year plan. They're mandated by the state to have a four-year plan. So if anybody has any suggestions, feel free to reach out. They are also pursuing their one-stop certification for any kind of training. They received $22,000 from the state for, it's called Justice Reentry, the Step Forward program. And I was lucky enough to go and attend the Step Forward program this week. And it's to help those who, as they say, have a background, which means they have a background with some sort of a felony, drug, and they're in the drug court or the mental health court. And they're learning how to interview, how to write a resume, and just get comfortable with reentering the workforce. So I just want to point out that they are doing such a wonderful job over there. So I want to thank the network, the Workforce Network.
Ms. Campbell?
Okay, so starting with the Emergency Management Agency. So it was kind of a busy day on last Thursday. We are already on our first annual review of the Natural Hazard Mitigation Plan that we just adopted. So we're right off and running. We had 29 communities that ended up participating in the program. 17 have currently submitted and adopted resolutions, as we did recently. As soon as the first community does that, the plan is activated, but those other communities will need to get that resolution in if they want to participate. Let me see here. Oh, and one of the things that was brought up at that time, so it's a couple of things. So we put together in that plan, there were 24 different projects that were identified as being good projects for mitigation purposes here in the county. We were reminded that that's kind of a living document, and so over time, as communities might come up with different projects, they should feel free to submit the application. Again, a living document, they can be added as we go. If anybody, on any of these things that I'm saying, if anyone has any questions, please reach out to Director David Christensen. The other thing that was, there was concern because if you had to, in order to access FEMA and BRIC mitigation funding, you have to be part of a plan. So that's why it was important to get as many communities as possible. We know that for some of our smaller communities, our townships, our drainage districts, for example, that's a difficult lift. So there is a bit of a workaround. They can be brought in under an MOU, a Memorandum of Understanding, under a larger entity that's already participating. So one of the things that we have going forward for the Hebron Township is the Department of Planning and Development applied for drainage tile and canal clearing on behalf of them, and they're going to come in under our participation in this plan. So a town within a township perhaps can come in through their mitigation plan if they did that. Okay. Two other meetings that day also related. So the other thing is the quarterly we meet with the Local Emergency Planning Committee, and this committee is directed completely toward hazardous materials. So it strictly covers that category. There are 12 sectors that are representative, so there are more categories like fire, police, the environment, the media, and so on. And most of those sectors, I think there's only one that's not filled. And so we just go over and we kind of review anything that's happened. we get notices if somebody wants to FOIA a particular property to see if there's any problems with hazardous material on that, should they perhaps be wanting to purchase that property or something like that. 2 incidences that happened in the last quarter was there was a Crystal Lake automobile fluid spill, and there was a diesel spill in Huntley, but otherwise there was no other activity. This membership is important. We do have an opening for chair of that committee, so if anybody is wanting to, if you know of anybody who is participating on that committee, we are looking for a chair. The final group there then was the coordinating council. They also meet quarterly. They reviewed the natural hazard mitigation plan, but they also talked about there's a virtual tabletop workshops that are coming up, and these are exercises that require a group of 5 or more. So if there are smaller communities out there that would like to participate in these exercises and they're too small, contact the county. We'd be happy to partner with them so that they can get some of this training. So currently right now, there is bridge structure collapse training that's going on for the next 3 days. There's cybersecurity coming up in December. Family reunification with regarding like tornadoes, that's also in January. Large-scale power outage. There's a lot of really great hands-on training that's available. And so, and then we're hoping to conduct a full-blown exercise next fall as people get up and running on that. What was the other thing? Oh, yeah. So we did also that during that meeting, we had somebody come in from CISA, and that's the, let's see here, the Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency. And it's, they call themselves the pinnacle of national risk management for cyber and physical infrastructure. This was an incredibly interesting discussion that we had. He went very fast, covered a lot of information. So we're hoping to bring him back. We're going to try to work with our coordinator, county coordinator, to try to get him in front of some of our other municipal partners. But what they do is they offer a free service to communities to defend against cybersecurity. And they do things, they look at 16 critical infrastructure sectors like chemical, financial, government facilities, healthcare, and so on. So great information, need a deeper dive, more time, so we'll get that going. I think Dave is going to be working on that shortly. One of the tips, and I want to just be my last thing on this thing, it is getting easier and easier. You know, our help desk, our IT is constantly giving us great information about how to keep ourselves safe. One of the things that was mentioned at this talk was that we know that you don't click on any links, right? Because that will add something to your phone or whatever. There's a new thing out now that a text can be sent to your phone and you don't have to touch it. It's already placed a beacon on your phone. So the beacon isn't a problem. It's for later use. But what they recommend that you do is, 1, keep your phone up to date on your software. So make sure you're keeping that up to date. 2, those beacons will go off of your phone every time you shut your phone down. So it's not a bad practice to shut down your phone maybe on a daily basis to remove those from your phone and start fresh the next day. So sorry for all of that. It's only quarterly, so I won't be doing this again for a couple months. The other issue, the other committee is the Regional Planning Commission. Last week we did a land use review with our municipal partners. We didn't get a huge turnout. I wish there had been more. This 2050 plan, comprehensive plan, is really designed. I mean, we're going to talk about policy. We're going to have goals and recommendations about a vision for the future here in McHenry County. But first and foremost, it's a land use plan. And so it's really important that our land use plan is kind of in keeping with what the municipalities are doing. So there's quite a few out there, and there are places where they intersect and overlap. So the more participation we can get from our municipal partners, the better. We'll be meeting again as a commission on December 7th at 6 p.m. here at the county building. Thank you.
Ms. Greeno?
Thank you. The Ethics Commission met on November 8th and adopted a flow chart of the ethics complaint process. And then it was followed by training, and Norm was able to present the entire process to us. And that was very helpful. I think it took about 5 minutes. That's a joke. And again, for everyone to be aware of the what the Ethics Commission does and the importance of it, and knowing what the standards are, and not ever having to appear before the Ethics Commission. Thank you.
Mr. Kaminsky?
From the BAC, Mike Wanacke wanted me to mention to y'all, so far this year, we've had $3.58 million in claims, or that roughly comes down to $6.75 for each dollar we spend, tax dollar we spend. So basically, that's $3.58 million that's come back into our county with the VAs and the veterans and their claims. That shows that Mike's and his organization's doing a good job in supporting our veterans. Just wanted to throw that number out there for you.
Mr. Reinert?
Yes, from the McHenry County Conservation District. I was at their meetings. There were two of them actually, that I attended since the last because of the flips. But one was a little bit of conversation on the spongy moth. I know we've been talking about it quite a bit in building and planning and development. But the spongy moths from the Conservation Department are only sprayed on individual trees deemed as monuments, such as something in a park or a municipal area where the tree is, old and they want to save it. They don't do large zones as rainstorms wash away the spray and high winds blow the spongy moths around the entire country. So they just don't think that spraying an area is wise on their behalf. I just thought I'd share that because I know we're considering it. Also, they're doing some research on proposing a referendum for improvements to their buildings and also some more land acquisitions. If it seems that it's a possibility that the county has an appetite for it, they'll probably be bringing that up. So that's it.
Thank you. Ms. Ness?
I sent the executive director report and board report for the Housing Authority to Kathy, so you'll all be getting it. In there, I encourage you to take a look at the rent rates. The Housing Authority is increasing nominally the rent rates that they pay in order to keep pace with the rising rents in McHenry County in order to keep people housed. I think you'd find that very interesting. And also there's a list of every project that has applied for project-based housing vouchers, which are attached to the unit and not to the individual. I think you'll find that list very interesting.
Ms. Altoff?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just real rapidly, we are rescheduling the January Law and Government Committee meeting to January 9th to accommodate all of our House representatives that represent the McHenry County area. I strongly urge any of you not on the committee, if you are interested in talking to any of those specific legislators or just hearing what they have to bring forward, please join us. It'll be in the afternoon. I believe it is at 1:30. I got the yes from Alicia, so I'm right. But again, wanted to get it on your calendar if you'd like to join us. Thank you very much.
Thank you. We'll proceed to the routine consent agenda. Do any members have items they'd like to remove from the routine consent agenda? Mr. Scala?
16, B as in boy, 2:15.
Ms. Wegner?
I just have to abstain from 16B to 1.
Okay, with that, I will entertain a motion to adopt or approve the routine consent agenda. Mr. Less, item 16B 215. Mr. Gottemoller makes the motion. Ms. Von Bergen seconds. Clerk, could you open the voting, please? Voting's open. Voting is open. Have all voted who wish? Motion carries. Next, I'll entertain a motion to approve item 16B 215. Mr. Scala makes the motion. Ms. Altoff seconds. Mr. Scala.
At your place this evening, you'll see a red line version of this resolution. At a Finance Committee meeting, I had brought up a couple of questions regarding this resolution in relation to the funding source of ARPA dollars. On Monday, Bronner got back to staff and they had reviewed the resolution and the recommendation and said that what was presented to us at committee would not be in compliance with federal guidelines. And so with that, a red line resolution is at your place that now changes this from a 5-year to a 3-year using ARPA funds. And then subsequently, you'll see, and then now therefore it be resolved that the 4th year and 5th year is using general funds to pay for that instead of ARPA dollars, so it will be in compliance. So with that, I will make a motion to amend the resolution on the agenda to the red line version that is sitting at your place.
Ms. Wagner makes or seconds that. Any discussion on the motion to amend? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Against? Motion carries. Any further discussion? Seeing none, clerk, could you open the voting? Voting is open. Motion carries. We'll move on to ordinances. We have 2 up for review, 4 for action. We'll move to action. I'll entertain a motion to approve item 17B1. Mr. Scala makes the motion. Mr. Smith seconds. Any discussion? Seeing none, clerk, could you open the voting? Voting is open. Have all voted who wish? Motion carries. Next, I'll entertain a motion to approve item 17B2. Mr. Scala makes a motion. Mr. Smith seconds. Any discussion?
I'm not sure if this is the contract that the constituent called about. There was a call from a constituent about suspended service, that they would not be able to suspend their waste service for the time that they are out of the county for 5 months. I called someone at the health department who was very helpful, and that is the way the contract reads now. Is this the company we're talking about? Is there any way to take a look at? I quite frankly support the constituent not wanting to pay for service they don't get. I would, yeah. Is there anything that, can we consider that?
I think at this stage with the, that we are in the process, I would say no. I think we would have to go back in that process and then renegotiate that. This was a single vendor that bid on the franchise agreement for the entire area. And the timeline that we have is to get it in place before it expires at the end of January. So I think it would be difficult. But as you and I discussed, though.
We did.
Yes.
Sorry, I didn't remember your name.
That's no problem. Is that there is an ability to suspend the services, but it's for a 3-month period of time, so they put a limit on it. And the reason that they do it is that they do recognize people leave, but when they're bidding these contracts, they're bidding over the entire area with an assumption of so much participation to spread that cost out over everybody. And so this is what they have proposed as a reasonable solution to provide some relief, but not necessarily if they're gone 6 or 9 months of the year.
Well, the company told him that he could get out of it if he sold his house. Now, that's how you get out of not paying the bill. So, I actually think this guy is telling the truth. So I would really take a look at customer service and how we respond to constituents. I get, because as you talked about, we're at the end of the contract. You've got this new contract. I would like us to look at the contract next time so that we could manage this suspended service agreement. I mean, I think we understand that we can't right now, but I don't think people should pay for service they're not using. That's just me. Thank you, and thank you very much for your help.
Thank you.
Ms. Meshes?
So to speak to the concern brought up during public comment, your office will review their service every year? Or, because I know these don't come back to us to think about, right? We leave it to staff to do the nitty-gritty of this.
Correct. So the contract would be in place under this ordinance for 3.5 years. And it was shortened to 3.5 to allow for changing out of carts if necessary, et cetera, due to weather, to make it easier both for the residents and also then the waste hauler. So, but we do maintain a list of any complaints that we receive. So if someone is not receiving good service, they should call us because we will contact the company. We maintain a list of what those concerns are. And I can tell you that we have had really just good response from this company in resolving any of those issues. And we have not had an exorbitantly large number or, you know, what I would consider excessively severe that could not be resolved.
And is this a contract that forces all residents to engage in it? Because thinking back to my experiences in other places I've lived, where if I don't pay the garbage bill, the garbage doesn't get picked up, so that I could drive it myself to a place. Is that an option for the residents or no?
It is. So, I mean, they cannot engage another waste hauler, municipal waste hauler, to come to their residence and pick up the waste. But if they have an alternative that's acceptable, if they have a business or a relative or something like that, they can do that. The ordinance doesn't prohibit that. And in fact, we tend to have a participation rate of about 80%. So there's a significant number of people that have an alternative that are using that option. So it is a possibility to do it.
All right, thank you for your time.
Ms. Van Hoff?
Yes. What remedy would you offer to Mr. Reese, who spoke to us earlier? He had several issues that he discussed, and one was not being able to get the per bag option, and the other was he mentioned something about a yearly review. So are you talking about a contract that is 3 years now? Could you explain that to me?
Absolutely. So the contract is for multiple years. Part of the reason is the investment in the carts, and when the process is bid, they're bidding that, spreading that cost over the number of participants and the years of the contract to provide an economically viable price for the residents. And this is an extremely competitive price that they are receiving compared to someone that does not have a franchise agreement. And we contacted multiple haulers to verify that that is the case. In terms of the buy the bag option, we did eliminate this time because we had such low participation in it. And I did look at the numbers when the contract came back. And if someone is participating in it and provides 1 bag a week, it's really, to do it by the bag would cost more than doing the smallest bin. But someone like Mr. Reese, who actually has less than that, it could be less. It could be an additional $15 or something like that over a quarter. But again, when we're looking at the process, we're trying to get the best price overall for all of the residents in that area, you know, and so in this case, if he's paying more, it's unfortunate. It's not our intention, but this is what we thought was the best option for all the residents in the area.
Can you offer him any remedy?
Nothing except not participating in the program.
Personally?
Pardon?
Have you spoken to him personally?
No, he's not contacted me personally, no.
Okay, he's been here twice. So we've heard him twice, and that's something that he's really passionate about. So I'm just wondering if there is any option that would be available for him, because it seems like this is a hardship for him.
Well, I'd be happy to talk to him about it, but I think probably the reality would be not participating, you know, in the program, if that's it.
That would be the only option.
Right. And in terms of comments, I just want to assure you that we do reach out to every single residence. In this case, there were over 7,000 residences that were contacted and invited to provide comment. And of those 7,033, we did receive 11. And 2 of those are about the buy the bag option. So I readily acknowledge that that was a concern for a small number of residents. But again, we're trying to put in a program in place that's in the best interest of the area at large.
Okay.
But I'm happy to speak to him,
Yeah,
absolutely.
I just have one more question.
Sure.
So if you did have that per bag option, would that affect the cost any of the program overall?
It may have, because, you know, it's an additional step that the vendor has to do. So when I looked at the cost myself, I assumed an increase in the cost of the buy the bag, because if you participate in buy the bag, then you must also enroll in the additional services for recycling, et cetera. So there's a fixed cost, and then how many bags you use. So it can, yes, affect the cost.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, seeing no further comment or discussion, clerk, could you open the voting, please? Voting is open. Oh. Have all voted who wish? Looks like it. Motion carries. This is the part we've all been waiting for. I'm going to turn this over to our finance chair, Mike Scala.
Okay, everyone ready? All right, I make a motion to combine and approve an ordinance providing for the levy of taxes for McHenry County, Illinois for the fiscal year December 1st, 2023 through November 30th, 2024, as presented on your desk, and which has been on file since October 17th, 2023. And I move to adopt the fiscal year 2023-2024 annual appropriation ordinance for the fiscal year December 1st, 2023 through November 30th, 2024, that has a schedule of expenditures totaling $246,826,320 and a schedule of revenues totaling $246,826,320, which includes the following recommended amendments as provided to you this evening to the preliminary budget that was filed on October 17th, 2023.
Okay, do we have a second? Ms. Altoff seconds. Discussion? Ms. Greeno?
Is this the part where I make the amendment, or do I wait?
If you so choose.
Oh, great. I would like to propose an amendment to have a 0 new growth and 0 CPI increase on the tax levy.
Second that motion.
Discussion on the motion to amend? Mr. Scala?
So I'm just asking for clarification from Ms. Greeno. I understand the levy request. What happens to the budget request?
The budget's an expenditure, the levy is revenue. The budget stays the same. We're talking about the levy.
Mr. Scala?
Yes, that is correct. So that's why I'm asking, if you're receiving less revenue, where does that come out of the budget?
Does not affect the budget, it affects the revenues. So on the document that I was sent, and I want to say that there is a form here with the fund balances, and the last 2 columns showing the projected months of reserve and the excess fund reserve has been cut off. But we can basically keep everything the same in the levy ordinance and cut the from the 73 million to the 71 million $581,406. And the only change that will be needed to be made would be to take the money out of the general corporate fund, and that would then have that amount be $36,766,406. And that would lower the projected months of reserve in the general fund from 7.5 to 6.268. And because these columns were cut off, I did send it via email to everyone on the board. So if you do want to open your email and look at that. And the excess deficit, amount in the general fund would remain above $10 million.
Okay, so that's where the money's coming from. The money's coming from the general fund reserve. That's all I was trying to get an answer to, is where it's coming from.
Any further discussion? Seeing none?
Well, I do.
Ms. Greeno?
I just thought there'd be some others. I was going to wait. So
I see no other lights.
okay. I just wanted to point out that over the last 20 years, property values in Illinois has increased by 13%. Property taxes have increased by 127%. McHenry County has been slower than most to increase property taxes while still doing this. Basic economic principles state that increasing taxes on an asset decreases the value of an asset. So we're basically taking money from the assets of the taxpayers of McHenry County. It also results in lower tax revenue, but decreasing taxes on an asset increases the value of the asset, increasing the resulting tax revenue. So in order to prevent having a property tax increase this year, this board voted to increase the motor fuel tax. So we have that revenue. We have understated revenue on the interest that we're going to be receiving because of the economy and interest rates. We have understated revenue on cannabis. And then we also have expenses which have very amply been projected. So without any other considerations, just taking the funds from the general fund of $1.5 million needed to balance the balance, we will have still over, well, nearly $10.5 million in the general fund. Inflation is very high. Employment is down. Orders are decreasing in manufacturers. Families are suffering, and we owe it to our constituents to protect their assets and their households by not increasing taxes in 2024. This is a one-year budget, and we would have ample time to look at the details of how we're operating the county, to see any economies that can be achieved over this next year, and then look at it again next year and see how we stand. The argument that we would incrementally increase taxes is a nice way of saying that we hope the frog doesn't know that notice that we're boiling him to death.
Mr. Reiner?
Yeah, in looking at the additional interest earned from the bank accounts, as the treasurer had mentioned earlier, also in acknowledging the increased marijuana revenues from the sale taxes, and also the motor fuel tax that we added on that is going to fund the reserves for McDOT by, I think it's something like 3.6 million additional reserves. If we did reduce the general fund by I think it's a 1.9 million, we would still have monies to support this if it did cause any kind of a danger of going into a less of a 6-month reserves that we would have. So I really don't see a problem with this. I see this as I think a good idea from Ms. Greeno, and I would certainly support it. Would we on this go to vote for her friendly amendment, or would we just vote no on this and then redo it after that. I'm not sure procedurally, but I would certainly support a friendly amendment.
What do you want to, what do you want to put forward as a friendly
Well,
amendment?
because
This
I
is-
believe
she's
this,
made the motion to amend with what she's presenting here.
I would second that motion.
Mr. Kunkel has already seconded. We're having discussion now, so it'll be an
Okay.
up or down vote, yes or no. And if it passes, then we will vote on and have discussion on the amended original motion.
Thank you. I didn't catch Mr. Kunkel's on that. But, yeah, I think this is a safe budget without an increase.
Mr. Kunkel?
Simply put, the inflation is hurting our constituents. As a board here, we are very particular to look at the county, but the county operations, that's what we do. We do the dollars here. But I think we've put too much focus on just the county's needs. After this, with this amendment and this proposal here, we still have over 6 months left in there, down from 7.5. We're not putting a hardship on ourselves. I dare say most our taxpayers don't have that same 6 months saved and put behind, and lots of them are saving all year long to make this tax payment. This county can very well fund 2024 with this flat budget and no new growth. You cannot say that about the general public right now. They're dealing with the inflation. We are not. We are able to handle the inflation because this county has been very fiscally responsible year over year for many years. I'm not taking anything away from that. But now is the time. That's why we've been fiscally responsible. So when our people, the county, not the county employees and the county itself, when our people in this county now need us, we are financially responsible, have been, and we can take care of them. We can easily do this for 2024 at a 0-0. Thank you.
Mr. Hendricks?
Yeah, I support Member Greeno's amendment. It makes sense to me. You know, we do talk about the cost of living, or specifically housing, and we have to at some point recognize that the taxation part of it is part of the problem. Here we have essentially fully funding the budget as proposed, but with keeping the tax rate at a true 0-0, 0 CPI, 0 new growth. Everything is still funded, and for a one-year budget, we're slightly drawing down on the general fund. The general fund would still be at adequate reserves. I think this is a win-win for everybody. I'll be voting yes for the amendment.
Any further discussion on the motion to amend? Mr. Kaminsky?
I'm in favor of Ms. Greeno's amendment. With all the taxing bodies on our property tax, McHenry County, as far as I know right now, would be the only one to hold the line, keeping it 0, and that way we can give a little bit of a grace period to our constituents by not adding to the rest of their tax bill in raising their levies. That's all.
Mr. Shorten?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Last year when I was campaigning for this seat, I was very, very cautious about how I answered the question about property taxes because, you know, I acknowledged at that point in time, and it's not a lot different than now, that there was great inflationary pressures. Also, as I was sworn in December and started to understand the additional pressures from a fiscal standpoint that are coming upon the county, the biggest one being the Safety Act, only second to inflation, of course. You know, I was very cautious in taking a position on this. But I want to thank all the staff because I've had a lot of conversations with folks and really was able to receive a lot of data and a lot of information, and I spent a lot of time going through it. And I think at the end of the day, the county is really on solid financial standing. So I feel confident that my vote in favor of Ms. Greeno's amendment is a safe vote. I acknowledge that there are still going to be challenges that we're going to have next year and the year after that and the year after that. But in the scope of looking at 2024 and the conversations that I have been having currently with residents when asked about property taxes, their response is no, and there's usually a four-letter word before that, or no way, and there's a four-letter word between no and way. So I'm going to have to vote with my constituents and vote in favor of Ms. Greeno's amendment. Thank you.
Any further discussion on this motion to amend? Seeing none, my gut tells me this is going to be a pretty close vote, so I'm going to ask the clerk to open the voting on this amendment. Voting is open. Motion does not carry. We're back to the original motion. Any further discussion? Seeing none, clerk, could you open the voting? Voting is open. Voting is open. Motion carries. Pete, you got a report for us tonight?
Yeah, there. Hardly a report. Just two quick things. Alicia did update your strategic plan, so your report card is updated. You can take a look at that. And secondly, I just want to congratulate Carrie. 10 months ago, you became our CFO, and tonight we finished your first budget. So congratulations, Carrie. And you know what's really cool? Her dad's in the audience. Wave. All right. Thank you, guys. Have a good Thanksgiving.
Okay, with that, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. Mr. Scala makes the motion. Do we have a second? Ms. Wegner seconds. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Against? Have a good night and a happy Thanksgiving.